Hey everybody, I'm Diane Gale and I am the author of the blog sustainableslowliving.com, and today I want to share with you how to ferment vegetables. This is a super easy process. This is a kind of a quick ferment. There are like long fermentation processes, right? You get that big old sauerkraut crock. And there are different health benefits to that process than there are to this one. So, or I should say the level of them differs, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I really just want to show you how simple this process for fermenting vegetables is. As far as tools and supplies are concerned, there is really not much that you need. If you already have canning jars and bands for the lids in your kitchen, and you may or may not, but they're readily available in just about any store, any big box store at least, then you've almost got what you need. You are going to need these fermentation lids. There are ways to ferment vegetables without them, but these actually do a really great job of helping to prevent bacteria buildup and mold. You can grab some of these online. They're very inexpensive. Pick up a pack of 5 of them. I ordered like 4 packs of 5 and I think I paid like $32 for them. They're fabulous to have, and you're going to want to ferment vegetables all the time, so you're going to want to pick up at least a couple packs. The other thing that you need when you ferment vegetables is salt. Salt is the ingredient that causes the fermentation process to occur, so you will need salt. I like to use a good salt. You can use any salt. You will find people who will tell you not to use iodized table salt. I've used it many times. I've never had a problem. Everyone recommends using pickling and canning salt. If you feel more comfortable doing that, then by all means pick some up and use it. It's not that expensive. I like to use real salt because of all of the minerals that it contains, or pink Himalayan salt, again because of all the minerals that it contains. When I made these, I used pink Himalayan salt in my brine. So if you have the jars, the lids, some salt, and whatever herbs or spices your fermentation recipe calls for, then you are all set. The only other tool that I would recommend you having, particularly if you're going to be fermenting cabbage, is a kraut pounder. This helps you to thoroughly pack the cabbage down into the jar. I don't necessarily use it with my other vegetables because I don't like to crush them, but cabbage you want to be crushed anyway. And FYI, the cabbage process for fermentation is just a little bit different than fermenting other vegetables. So I am going to be putting out some videos on fermenting vegetables, and I will link them down below as they become available. The first video that I'm going to be putting out is how to ferment cabbage. So you can take a look at that and you can see the difference in the process. Today we're going to talk about this more general process that you can use to ferment all of your other vegetables. Both of the processes are very, very easy. So once you've got all of your tools and supplies, you are ready to go. You need to make your brine. Brine is very simple to make. You are going to take 1 tablespoon of salt to every 3 cups of water. You want to boil off your water and dissolve your salt into the water. It's okay if not all of the salt dissolves. That's actually a good thing. Your salt has a saturation point, and when it's reached that saturation point, it will no longer continue to dissolve in the water. It will stay in their full form. So if you have a little bit of salt left at the bottom of your pan, then your brine is perfect because it has reached the saturation point, and that's where you want it to be. And then you want to cool your brine down completely. I like my brine actually to be a little bit cold because I don't want to start to cook my vegetables when I pour the brine over top. And then after you have your brine, you're going to take a clean jar and a clean lid, and you're going to put in your herbs and your spices. You're going to pack in your vegetables. If you have things like fresh garlic or fresh herbs like dill sprigs or bay leaves that you can set in between your vegetables, you can pack them in as you're packing your vegetables in as well. Once you get your vegetables packed in there nice and tight up to the bottom of the rim, you're going to go ahead and you're going to cover them with the brine. Shove them down underneath the brine a little more, put your fermenting lid on, put your band on, and hand tighten it down. Now, you do not have to use a fermenting weight when you use these fermenting lids. These are airtight lids, and they create an environment that prevents bacteria and mold from growing in your ferment. Your ferments do not need to be refrigerated. They should be kept in a cool, dark place. If you have a cool, dark place in your basement, that's perfect. You can keep them in a kitchen cupboard as long as your kitchen doesn't get too hot. You want to keep them cool, mostly just because it slows down the fermentation process. You can put them in the refrigerator. I recommend leaving them out on the counter for at least a week or two to allow that fermentation process to grab hold. But after that, if you want to put them in the refrigerator, you can go ahead and they will keep longer. It's not necessary, however, and I kind of like the fact that I don't have to keep them in my refrigerator because, you know, it saves a little bit of room. A lot of people have a second refrigerator out in a garage, you know, or in a storage shed or in their basement, and I guess if you have that going on, you may want to put them in the fridge. I never have. I've always just kept them out at room temperature. My house has never been very hot because I really don't like a hot house. Now, your fermented vegetables are going to last for up to 18 months when you do them this way. Perhaps even a little bit longer. Your eyes and your nose are your friend when knowing whether or not your fermented vegetables are good. If you see or smell anything that seems that it's a little bit off, then just go ahead and throw them away. When you're doing them this way with these lids, and I'm doing such small quantities, they generally get eaten quicker than they could ever go bad. But I guess you never know. You have to pay attention. Don't ever eat anything that you have fermented that seems like it might not be good. With that said, when can you start eating your fermented vegetables? And you can start eating your fermented vegetables as early as a week after you make them. Now, the salt flavor is going to be very, very powerful at that point. Even 2 or 3 weeks in, it's going to be very powerful. By the time I get to 4 weeks or so, maybe even 3 weeks, 3 weeks is maybe my sweet spot. 3-4 weeks, I start to enjoy my fermented vegetables a whole lot. They are delicious. The flavor will continue to change after time. The fermentation process isn't going to stop. It's going to keep going. There may be a point when it stops. I honestly don't know that, but I know that it will keep going, and I know that your vegetables will continue to change over time. Your sauerkraut will start to taste much more like the sauerkraut that you're used to buying in the store when you get 3 or 4 months into the process. And it's delicious then, but I also like it earlier. I love this fermenting process because it's so easy. It's a small portion and I can start to eat it right away. It takes nothing to start another jar and you'll have it ready in just 2 or 3 weeks. There's a lot of buzz out there on the internet about whether or not fermented vegetables are good for you. At this point, everyone seems to agree that they are good for you. There's some differences in what people believe about them, and one of the things that I've noticed is that nobody talks about the difference between a fermented vegetable that you have done like this in a canning jar, in a small batch that you're eating within 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and the level of benefit that it provides to your health in comparison to something that does actually, this never makes it the full 18 months. So I don't remember anymore exactly what the time frames were, but I want to say it was at like 18 months, 2 years, where there is this colony of good bacteria, right? There is a colony of probiotics that forms in fermented vegetables. I took a class one time on sauerkraut making, and I still have those notes somewhere. I would have to look at them, but there is a big difference between what happens in the probiotic world in that amount of time in a fermentation to what this jar is going to offer you in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, even 3 months or 4 months. And what happens is good. And if you want to get into that longer fermentation, I know that I do. I am definitely going to experiment with that in the very near future. And that is something that creates a product that is extremely good for your health. But that doesn't deplete what this process does for you. It is still a fermentation process, and it is still creating good bacteria, and it is still probiotic. It is good for your health. It's quick and easy to do. You're more likely to eat it on a regular basis, right? So if you're eating a little bit of this every day, as in comparison to some of that other like long fermented goodness, maybe once a week or twice a week, you know, or maybe you'll eat that long fermented goodness every day, and then that's even better for you. All I'm saying is eating a little bit of this every day is very, very good for your gut biome. And your gut biome is linked to so many things, not the least of which is your immunity levels and your blood sugar stabilization. This is full of good vitamins and minerals, and it does have probiotics in it. I like to eat a little bit of a fermented vegetable or a pickled vegetable after just about every meal to help my digestion. And I highly recommend that you give that a chance for just 2 or 3 weeks, and you're gonna see that you're gonna feel better, okay? Especially if you start to eliminate some of those other things in your diet that are destroying your gut biome. Get rid of just 1 or 2 things and add a little bit of fermented or pickled vegetable in after every meal, and you're going to start to see a big difference in the way that you feel. A healthy gut biome contributes to so many things in our overall well-being. And fermented vegetables are a great way to develop a healthy gut biome. As far as how to eat these, like I've just said, you can just have a little portion after every meal. Go ahead and open the jar, pull some out with a spoon, put it in a little dish, and enjoy. It's really, really fabulous. You can do just about anything else with them that you can imagine doing with sauerkraut or with pickles. You can put them on salads, you can put them in stir fries, you can put them on top of burgers and sandwiches. You can add them to tacos or quesadillas. Really, the only thing limiting you with ways to use fermented vegetables is your imagination. And I assure you that if you just keep a jar or 2 of these, I know I've said put them in a cool place, and I stand by that. That's how they really need to be stored. But make yourself a jar or 2. In 2 or 3 weeks, get 1 or 2 of them from your cool place and just bring them up and put them on your kitchen counter and use them. When they're sitting there and you're seeing them, you're going to come up with all kinds of ways to use them, and it's really great to have them in your diet. I hope that this video has shown you how easy this process is, and I hope that you're going to give it a try. I hope you're going to make yourself great fermented vegetables this spring, summer, and fall, and you are going to enjoy every bite of them. Be sure to put some up when fall's bounty starts to deplete. Do some so that you have them throughout the winter months. Maybe you can even make it into spring before you're without. And then new vegetables will be coming out of the gardens for you. Make yourself some. Enjoy them. And as always, I'm so glad that you joined me here today. You and I are going to get together again, and we're going to do it really soon.